They laughed. The Tholians always laughed, mocking humanity as primitive savages, scrabbling in the dirt of an insignificant planet called Earth. But they wouldn't be laughing much longer. In the year 2457, the centuries-long galactic war raged on. The ruthless Tholian coalition had pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. Admiral Nolan Skora stood on the bridge of the battered ISS Indomitable, humanity's last operational battleship. Grim reports flooded in from across the crumbling human defenses. Fleets in ruin, colonies burning, outposts overrun. Tholian victory seemed certain. Then a frantic transmission arrived from the Ultima Thule system on the galaxy's edge, site of a top-secret research outpost. Dr. Elena Vetrov's team had achieved the impossible. Stable quantum entanglement on a massive scale, ships that could teleport, unbreakable quantum encryption, weapons that struck instantly across vast distances. The quantum fleet was ready, humanity's last hope. But Ultima Thule lay deep in Tholian space, vulnerable to attack. As Nolan debated a desperate rescue mission, alarms blared. Notorious Tholian spy Taurus had breached the Indomitable, stealing intel on human fleet dispositions and Ultima Thule's location. After a brutal fight, Taurus escaped, cybernetic enhancements giving him the edge. The Tholians would descend on the defenseless research outpost within hours. Nolan had to act now, launch an all-out rescue op with the untested quantum fleet, or mount a futile last stand. As the crew scrambled to battle stations, Nolan made his choice. One path or the other, the looming confrontation would reshape the galaxy forever. Humanity's fate hung in the balance. Admiral Nolan Skora stood on the bridge of the Nighthawk, his fists tight. The fate of humanity rested on his next decision. He turned to his trusted executive officer, Takeshi Iwata, a battle-hardened veteran with a keen strategic mind. Captain Iwata, I'm promoting you to acting commander of the Indomitable. Rally what's left of our fleet and hit the Tholian battle line with everything we've got. Buy me time to reach Ultima Thule. We can't let those alien bastards get their claws on the quantum fleet. Iwata nodded grimly. Understood, Admiral. We'll give them hell and then some. Good hunting, sir. Bring our people home. As Iwata's face vanished from the view screen, Nolan felt a flicker of doubt. Was he consigning his loyal friend and hundreds of brave souls to certain death? No, he couldn't afford such thoughts. They all knew the stakes. Helm! Set course for Ultima Thule. Engage slipstream drive and phase cloaking on my mark. Nolan gripped the command chair as the Nighthawk's powerful engines thrummed to life. Mark! The sleek vessel shimmered and vanished as it slipped into the ethereal realm of subspace. Beyond the shimmering veil, treacherous rifts and gravitational anomalies lurked, eager to ensnare the unwary. Nolan's fingers tightened on the armrests. Everything hinged on this risky move. Light years away, claxons blared across the embattled Ultima Thule research outpost. In the austere command center, Dr. Elena Vetrov frantically input commands into the quantum entanglement control matrix. Her protege Mikhail Kazanov dashed in, his youthful face etched with urgency. Dr. Vetrov, long-range scans just picked up a massive Tholian armada headed straight for us. ETA, less than 2 hours. Elena cursed under her breath. They were out of time. Get those quantum drives online now. We need to evacuate the quantum fleet before... A thunderous boom shook the facility, sending personnel sprawling. Mikhail pulled himself upright, his voice tight with controlled fear. What the hell was that? Elena consulted the flickering displays, her heart seizing at the impossible readings. Some kind of phase-shifting stealth drone. It's breached our perimeter and is headed straight for the Ascendant. If it takes out the flagship's quantum drive, the fleet won't be able to jump as one. Mikhail snatched up a sleek quantum resonance rifle from the weapon rack. Not on my watch. I'll stop that thing if it's the last thing I do. As he sprinted from the command center, Elena whispered a desperate prayer, her fingers flying over the entanglement control keys. The future of the human race hung by the thinnest of threads. On the Nighthawk's cloaked bridge, proximity alarms suddenly wailed. Tholian ships dead ahead, the sensor officer barked. They've detected us somehow. Nolan lunged to his feet. All power to forward quantum cannons. Engage phase shift and punch us a path through their lines. We're not stopping for anything. Azure quantum beams crackled from the Nighthawk's emitters, ripping into the alien vanguard with devastating force. Molten hulls spun away, trailing plasma as the human vessel sliced through the enemy formation. The image of Ultima Thule sprang onto the main view screen, a beleaguered bastion under siege. Tholian dropships swarmed its battered defenses, disgorging hordes of nightmarish alien warriors. Nolan steeled himself for the desperate battle to come. There would be no second chances. The Nighthawks screamed into the fray, cannons spitting defiance. Nolan could only pray they were not too late. The Nighthawk tore through the chaos of battle, quantum cannons blazing, Nolan's fingers tightening as he gripped the command chair. Status on the Vanguard? Detecting quantum fluctuations, the sensor officer reported. They're attempting to jump. A blinding flash erupted on the console as the Vanguard vanished, narrowly evading a barrage of Tholian energy bolts. Nolan allowed himself a moment of relief before refocusing on the dire situation at hand. Suddenly, space rippled and tore. The quantum fleet materialized amid the fray, led by the imposing battlecruiser Ascendant. Their arrival sent shockwaves through the Tholian formation. "Admiral," the comms officer called out, "incoming transmission from Captain Iwata." Takeshi's grim face appeared on screen, his bridge awash in smoke and sparks. "Glad you could join us, sir. We've drawn their main force away from Ultima Thule, but we're taking heavy losses." "Well done, old friend," Nolan replied. "Now let's finish this." The entanglement cannons of the quantum fleet opened up, their beams slicing through Tholian ships with terrifying precision. Nolan watched in awe as a third of the alien armada disintegrated in seconds. But the Tholians were quick to adapt. Their vessels shimmered, engaging phase shift technology that scattered the quantum targeting locks. The human ships were forced to rely on conventional weapons, evening the odds once more. On the bridge of the Ascendant, Captain Ivanov Petrova barked orders as his crew fought to repel boarders. "Redirect power to forward shields. We can't let them." A massive impact rocked the ship, cutting him off. Alarms blared as a crewman shouted, "Direct hit to the reactor shielding." Petrova's face hardened. "Begin evacuation procedures. Prepare to overload the quantum drive." Before he could give the final order, space distorted once more. The Vanguard burst into existence between the Ascendant and the advancing Tholian ships. Aboard the smaller vessel, Mikhail Kazanov's fingers flew across the controls. "Initiating quantum link, now!" Both ships vanished in a flash of light, reappearing at the edge of the battlefield. The Vanguard immediately wheeled about, unleashing a salvo of phase-shifting quantum torpedoes into the heart of the Tholian fleet. The resulting explosions tore through the alien formation, but the Vanguard paid a heavy price. Its weapons went dark, quantum drives sputtering offline. War Matron Zavira's voice rang out across the Tholian command channel. "All ships, converge on the human vessel. We must claim their technology." As the aliens closed in, the remaining quantum fleet vessels formed a protective ring around the crippled Vanguard. Nolan pushed the Nighthawk's experimental drive to its limits, racing back toward the center of the battle. "Hold on," he muttered, more to himself than his crew. "We're coming." The Tholian ships pressed their attack, their superior numbers threatening to overwhelm the human defenders. Aboard the Vanguard, Mikhail worked feverishly to restore power, acutely aware that their survival hung by a thread. As the Nighthawk streaked toward the embattled quantum fleet, Nolan knew the next few moments would determine the fate of humanity. The final confrontation was at hand. The Nighthawk's sensors screamed as a massive energy surge erupted from the Tholian dreadnought, inexorable. Time seemed to slow as Nolan watched the devastating barrage tear across space towards the vulnerable Vanguard. "Brace for impact." Mikhail's voice crackled over the comms, cut short as quantum torpedoes ripped through the frigate's failing shields. The Vanguard's hull shuddered, great rents appearing in its superstructure as atmosphere vented into the void. Nolan's grip tightened on his command chair. "Status on the Vanguard." "Critical damage, sir," his tactical officer reported grimly. "They're venting atmosphere and... Wait, I've lost life signs from the bridge." Nolan's mind raced. The vanguard was crippled, the Tholians closing in for the kill. He had to act now. "All ships, execute Maneuver Omega," he barked. "Disengage and retreat on Quantum Vector 117, Mark 32. The quantum fleet shimmered and vanished, reappearing at the edge of a vast interstellar dust cloud. Behind them, the Tholian armada gave chase, War Matron Zavira's triumphant voice echoing across open channels. "You cannot escape us, humans. Your pathetic technology is no match for—" Her gloating was cut short as the quantum fleet translated back into real space within the cloud. Nolan allowed himself a grim smile as he watched the sensors light up. The cloud erupted in a storm of quantum instabilities, miniature singularities blossoming like deadly flowers. Tholian ships tumbled helplessly, caught in the gravitational maelstrom. "It worked," Nolan breathed. "Now's our chance. Begin emergency jump sequence for the Vanguard." The damaged frigate vanished in a flash of quantum energy, translated to a hidden repair depot light years away. Nolan exhaled slowly, allowing himself a moment of relief before turning to his comms officer. "Get me a secure channel to Dr. Vetrov at the depot. We need that ship back in fighting shape yesterday." As the fleet regrouped, Nolan's mind turned to their next move. The Tholians were trapped for now, but it wouldn't last forever. They needed a game changer, and fast. Little did he know that game changer was already in motion. Deep within the repair depot, a shadowy figure slipped past security checkpoints with inhuman grace. Taurus, the notorious Tholian spy, moved with singular purpose towards his target. But he wasn't alone. As he rounded a corner, he came face to face with a trio of Tholian infiltrators, their bodies shimmering as they phased through solid matter. Taurus's cybernetic implants whirred as he assessed the situation. His cover was blown, but so was theirs. In a heartbeat, he made his choice. "Intruder alert!" he shouted, diving for cover as the Tholians opened fire. "We have hostiles in Section 7. As alarms blared and security teams scrambled, Taurus found himself in a desperate race against time. He had to stop the Tholian strike team, secure their phase teleporter, and somehow warn Admiral Nolan of the looming quantum disaster. The fate of the war, and perhaps the galaxy itself, now rested on his shoulders. Taurus moved with fluid precision through the repair depot's corridors, his enhanced senses on high alert. The distant sounds of battle echoed through the station as security teams engaged the Tholian infiltrators. He rounded a corner and froze, face to face with 3 shimmering alien forms. Time slowed to a crawl as his cybernetic implants processed the situation. In that frozen moment, Taurus made his choice. "Intruder alert!" he shouted, diving behind a nearby console as energy bolts seared the air. "We have hostiles in Section 7. The Tholians advanced, their crystalline forms phasing through solid matter with unnatural ease. Taurus's hand flew to his sidearm, squeezing off precise shots that shattered one alien's exoskeleton. The creature collapsed in a spray of crystalline shards. Alarms blared as Taurus rolled to new cover, narrowly avoiding a barrage that melted through durasteel plating. He needed to end this quickly. With inhuman speed, he vaulted over his shelter and closed the distance. His cybernetic arm whirred as he drove it into the nearest Tholian's torso, shattering its core. The final alien raised its weapon, but Taurus was faster. A swift kick sent the phase teleporter flying from its grasp. In one fluid motion, he snatched the device from the air and fired, reducing the Tholian to glittering dust. Victory was short-lived. A bone-deep vibration shuddered through the station, accompanied by an ominous hum. Taurus's implants flashed urgent warnings. The quantum shielding was destabilizing. He sprinted toward the main reactor, mind racing. The phase teleporter in his hand could be the key to Dr. Vetrov's breakthrough weapon, but none of that would matter if the entire base was consumed by uncontrolled quantum energies. Taurus skidded to a halt before the sealed reactor door, his enhanced vision piercing the layers of shielding to reveal the maelstrom within. The quantum cascade was accelerating. He had seconds to decide. His finger hovered over the emergency broadcast controls. One press and the evacuation order would sound, giving the base's personnel a fighting chance to escape. But it would also mean the loss of vital research and technology, perhaps humanity's only hope against the Tholian threat. Taurus closed his eyes, allowing himself one agonizing moment of hesitation. Then his hand dropped away from the controls. He activated the phase teleporter, feeling reality blur around him as he stepped into the heart of quantum chaos. The reactor chamber was a nightmare of twisting energies and warped space-time. Taurus pushed through the vertigo, each step a battle against physics gone mad. The control nexus loomed ahead, a fragile island of stability in the quantum storm. As Taurus reached for the override controls, beam of coherent energy lanced past his head. The base's automated defenses had marked him as a threat. He dove and rolled, fingers flying across the reactor controls, even as he evaded the relentless assault of quantum disruption beams. With a final, desperate command sequence, Taurus felt the cascade begin to stabilize. But something was wrong. The quantum energies weren't dissipating. They were coalescing into a shockwave of unimaginable power. Taurus's implants screamed warnings of subspace-time destabilization, spreading beyond the station. In that moment of clarity, Taurus knew what he had to do. He grasped the phase teleporter, using every ounce of his training and cybernetic enhancements to channel the quantum maelstrom. With a final, Herculean effort, he shunted the energy through subspace. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, reality tore asunder. Aboard the Nighthawk, Admiral Nolan gripped his command chair as the fleet translated back into normal space. "All ships, battle formations, prepare to..." His words died in his throat as a tsunami of quantum energy erupted from nowhere, engulfing the fleet. Ships tumbled helplessly, their quantum drives resonating with the impossible energies. Nolan watched in horror as space itself fractured around them, great rifts yawning between stars. The Tholian armada, caught in the same cataclysm, splintered and scattered across dimensions. As the quantum storm raged, Nolan could only wonder what terrible price had been paid for this unexpected reprieve. The quantum storm subsided, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Admiral Nolan blinked, his vision clearing to reveal a starfield he didn't recognize. The Nighthawk's sensors flickered, struggling to make sense of their new surroundings. "Report!" he barked, fighting down a surge of disorientation. His tactical officer's voice wavered. "Sir, we're not where we should be. Long-range scans show no sign of the fleet or the Tholians. It's as if we've been hurled across the galaxy." Nolan's mind raced. The quantum strike had scattered them, perhaps across both space and time. He opened a channel to the rest of the fleet, but only static answered. Light years away, the Vanguard materialized in orbit around a desolate world. On the bridge, Mikhail Kazanov screamed, his body convulsing as quantum energies coursed through him. The ship's drive matrix pulsed in sync with his erratic heartbeat, creating a nightmarish harmonic resonance. Dr. Elena Vetrov burst onto the bridge, her eyes widening at the sight. "Get him to medbay, now!" As crew members rushed to comply, the ship rocked violently. Elena stumbled, catching herself on a console. "What was that?" The tactical officer's face paled. "Tholian defense platforms, Doctor. They're targeting us." Elena's mind whirled. They were trapped between Mikhail's deteriorating condition and the relentless Tholian assault. She made a split-second decision. Divert all non-essential power to shields. We need to buy time to stabilize Mikhail. In medbay, Elena worked feverishly, her fingers dancing across holographic displays as she fought to untangle Mikhail's quantum signature from the ship's drive matrix. Each Tholian barrage threatened to undo her progress, the ship's shields weakening with every impact. "Come on, Mikhail," she muttered, injecting another dose of quantum stabilizers into his writhing form. "Fight it!" Across the vastness of space, the Ascendant tumbled helplessly in a subspace Mobius anomaly. Captain Petrova stared at the twisting, impossible geometry outside the viewports, his stomach churning. "Engineering? Status on the quantum drive?" "Offline, sir," came the frustrated reply. "We're completely cut off from normal space-time." Unbeknownst to the trapped human vessels, War Matron Zavira surveyed the aftermath of the quantum strike from her command ship. Her crystalline form vibrated with barely held-back excitement as she addressed her science team. "This anomaly, it holds the key to their technology. Find a way in. I want those quantum drives. Her chief scientist hesitated. War matron, decrypting these quantum patterns requires expertise beyond our capabilities. We need... Zavira's voice grew dangerously cold. Then we will acquire that expertise. Contact Warlord Cathax. Tell him I have a proposition he cannot refuse. Back on the Vanguard, Elena stumbled out of medbay. Exhaustion etched on her face. She'd stabilized Mikhail, but at a terrible cost. The young commander lay comatose, his mind inexorably linked to the ship's quantum core. A junior officer approached, his face ashen. Dr. Vetrov, we've received word from the few ships we've managed to contact. Admiral Nolan and the Nighthawk, they never emerged from the quantum strike. They're gone. Elena's blood ran cold. With Nolan presumed dead and Mikhail incapacitated, command of what remained of the fleet fell to her. She straightened, pushing aside her grief and fatigue. Send out a coded quantum pulse, she ordered. We need to find our scattered ships before the Tholians do. As the Vanguard's quantum beacon pulsed across subspace, Elena gazed at Mikhail's still form. She knew the risk they were taking, but they had no choice. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. In the twisted depths of the Mobius anomaly, the Ascendant's quantum core suddenly flared to life. Captain Petrova's triumphant shout was cut short as Tholian energy signatures flooded his sensors. The ship lurched, struggling against an unseen force. They're in our systems, his engineer cried out. They're taking control of the drive. Petrova's eyes widened in horror as he realized the trap they'd fallen into. He opened his mouth to give the order to scuttle the ship, but it was too late. The Ascendant vanished in a flash of quantum energy, leaving only emptiness in its wake. War Matron Zavira's laughter echoed across Tholian command channels as her prize materialized before her. The hunt begins, she hissed. Let them run. We have their technology now, and soon we will have their worlds. As the Tholian-controlled Ascendant prepared to jump, Elena Vetrov stood on the Vanguard's bridge, her face set in unyielding commitment. She turned to her crew, acutely aware of the weight now resting on her shoulders. Prepare for quantum jump, she ordered. We're going to find our fleet and bring them home, whatever it takes. The Vanguard's drive hummed to life, its quantum signature intertwined with Mikhail's unconscious form. As they prepared to plunge back into the chaos of shattered space-time, Elena could only hope they weren't already too late. The Vanguard's quantum drive pulsed erratically as Elena fought to stabilize their trajectory. Alarms blared throughout the ship, warning of cascading system failures. Dr. Vetrov, we're losing containment, Lieutenant Chen shouted from his station. The quantum matrix is destabilizing. Elena's fingers flew across holographic displays, desperately trying to compensate for the wildly fluctuating energy levels. Reroute emergency power to the containment fields. We need to keep Mikhail's quantum signature intact. A violent shudder rocked the ship, nearly throwing Elena from her feet. She steadied herself against a console, her eyes widening as new data flooded her screens. This can't be right, she muttered, rechecking the readings. We're detecting multiple quantum signatures, all matching Mikhail's base pattern. Before she could process the implications, a stern voice cut through the chaos. Stand down, Dr. Vetrov. You've done enough damage. Admiral Alistair Graves strode onto the bridge, flanked by a security detail. His weathered face was set in iron will as he surveyed the chaotic scene. Admiral, you don't understand, Elena protested. We're on the verge of a breakthrough. If we can just... Graves cut her off with a sharp gesture. Your breakthroughs have cost us dearly, Doctor. I'm relieving you of duty, effective immediately. Elena watched in horror as Graves turned to the engineering team. Shut down the quantum drive and prepare for conventional towing. We're taking the Vanguard back to dry dock for a full refit. No! Elena lunged forward, only to be restrained by security officers. You can't do this. Mikhail's consciousness is still in there. If you power down the drive, we'll lose him forever. Graves' expression softened slightly, but his voice remained firm. I'm sorry, Doctor, but we can't risk the safety of this ship and crew on theoretical reconstructions. The war effort needs reliable technology, not wild experiments. As Elena was escorted from the bridge, she caught a final glimpse of the quantum drive readouts. The multiple signatures were coalescing, forming intricate patterns that hinted at the vast complexity of Mikhail's shattered consciousness. The ship lurched again, more violently this time. Klaxons wailed as emergency force fields snapped into place throughout the vessel. "Sir," Lieutenant Chen's voice was tinged with panic, "we're detecting a massive subspace distortion. It's a Tholian assault force." Graves spun towards the main view screen, his face paling as he saw the crystalline forms of Tholian ships materializing around them. At their center, a nightmarish amalgamation of alien technology and what appeared to be fragments of human quantum drives pulsed with otherworldly energy. "All hands, battle stations," Graves barked. "Prepare for—" His words were cut short as reality itself seemed to twist. The air shimmered, and suddenly the bridge was filled with the impossible forms of Tholian boarders, their bodies flickering in and out of phase with normal space-time. Elena, still held by security near the turbolift, watched in horror as the invaders cut through the unprepared crew with ruthless efficiency. She caught a glimpse of a towering Tholian figure, different from the others, emanating an aura of absolute authority. War Matron Zavira's crystalline voice reverberated through the chamber. "Secure the quantum drive. The Paradox cult requires its secrets." As Zavira's forces advanced on the drive chamber, Elena felt a surge of desperate inspiration. With a swift move, she broke free from her guards and dove for an emergency console. Her fingers danced across the controls, initiating a deliberate quantum cascade. If she couldn't save Mikhail, she could at least deny the Tholians their prize. The ship bucked and heaved as reality itself began to fracture around them. Elena caught a final glimpse of Graves's shocked expression before a blinding flash consumed everything. When her vision cleared, Elena found herself floating in a void unlike anything she had ever experienced. Fragments of timelines and realities swirled around her, each one offering tantalizing glimpses of possible futures. In one, she saw humanity triumphant, a golden age of quantum technology spreading across the stars. In another, Tholian ships swarmed over Earth, reverse engineering captured drives to fuel their conquest. And there, at the heart of the maelstrom, she sensed a familiar presence. Mikhail's consciousness, fractured but not destroyed, reaching out across the infinite expanse of quantum possibility. Elena hesitated, torn between two impossible choices. She could attempt to seal the rift, potentially sacrificing herself and any hope of recovering Mikhail to save the fleet. Or she could plunge deeper into the quantum realm, chasing the faint hope of reconstructing her friend and unlocking the true potential of their technology. As the possibilities swirled around her, Elena made her choice. She reached out, her mind opening to the vast ocean of quantum information that surrounded her. Whatever the consequences, she would see this through to the end. The fractured timelines converged, and Elena felt herself being pulled into the heart of the quantum storm. Elena plunged into the quantum maelstrom, her consciousness expanding to encompass the swirling timelines. The fractured realities bombarded her senses, each one vying for dominance in the chaotic quantum realm. She saw herself sealing the rift, wiping away Mikhail's last traces. Humanity endured, but at a terrible cost. The vision faded, replaced by the tantalizing possibility of Mikhail's reconstruction. "I can't abandon him," Elena whispered into the void. She reached out, her mind grasping at the gossamer threads of quantum possibility. Back on the Vanguard's fractured bridge, Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled through a damaged comm panel. "Dr. Vetrov, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations. What are your orders?" Elena's consciousness snapped back to her physical form. She steadied herself against a sparking console, her decision made. "Initiate quantum particle siphoning. We're bringing Mikhail back." Alarms blared as the ship's remaining systems struggled to contain the escalating quantum resonances. Elena's fingers danced across holographic displays, guiding the experimental cascade device into position. "Sir, we've got multiple breaches," a crewman shouted. "Temporal anomalies forming on decks 3 through 7. Through a shimmering rift in space-time, Elena glimpsed Admiral Graves on the ISS Indomitable, his face contorted in shock as his own ship turned against him. The vision flickered and changed, revealing Tholian scientists hunched over nightmarish machines that pulsed with stolen quantum energy. "Stay focused," Elena barked, her eyes never leaving the cascading data streams. "We've got one shot at this." The ship bucked violently as another temporal wave washed over them. Elena's eyes widened as she saw familiar crystalline forms materializing on the bridge. "Paradox cult infiltrators," she warned, snatching up a fallen phaser. "Hold them off! We need more time!" Lieutenant Chen and the remaining bridge crew engaged the Tholian agents in a desperate firefight. Energy beams crisscrossed the chaotic space as reality itself seemed to warp and twist around them. Elena ducked behind a shattered console, her mind racing. The cascade was almost ready, but the Tholians were too close. She needed a distraction. With a deep breath, she tapped into the quantum energies suffusing the ship. The air around her shimmered as she projected multiple quantum echoes of herself across the bridge. The Tholians hesitated, their crystalline forms vibrating in confusion as they tried to target the real Elena. She used the moment of reprieve to make a final adjustment to the cascade device. "Initiating quantum reconstruction," she shouted, slamming her hand down on the activation panel. A blinding light erupted from the drive core, engulfing the ship in a storm of impossible energies. Elena felt herself being pulled apart at the subatomic level, her consciousness stretched across countless realities. In that transcendent moment, she sensed Mikhail's presence. His fragmented essence coalesced within the heart of the quantum singularity, drawn together by the very forces that had torn him apart. But as Mikhail's form began to solidify, Elena saw the approaching wave of quantum destruction. The fabric of reality itself was unraveling, threatening to consume everything in its path. "Mikhail," she called out, her voice echoing across dimensions. "We have to—" Her words were cut short as the quantum detonation reached its peak. Elena felt herself being ripped away, scattered across subspace like cosmic dust. In the chaos of collapsing realities, she caught one last glimpse of Mikhail. His physical form was gone, but his consciousness radiated with newfound power and understanding. He had become one with the quantum forces that shaped the universe. As the rift collapsed around her, Elena's fractured consciousness tumbled through the void. She had saved Mikhail, but at what cost? The paradox cult, the fate of humanity, and the very nature of reality itself hung in the balance as she hurtled into the unknown. Elena's fractured consciousness coalesced, drawn inexorably towards a singularity of pure quantum potential. In that timeless moment, she sensed Mikhail's essence, no longer bound by physical form, but woven into the very fabric of existence. A cosmic shockwave rippled outward, reality itself bending to accommodate this new fundamental force. Elena's awareness snapped back to her body aboard the Vanguard, alarms blaring as space-time buckled around them. On the Ascendance Bridge, Admiral Graves stumbled as the deck lurched beneath his feet. Crystalline shards of a shattered Tholian infiltrator crunched under his boots as he fought to regain his balance. "Status report!" he barked, wiping blood from a gash on his forehead. Lieutenant Soren's voice crackled through a damaged comm panel. "Sir, we've lost containment on the quantum drive core. It's resonating with something. Energy readings are off the charts." Before Graves could respond, a blinding light erupted from the heart of the ship. The air itself seemed to tear, revealing glimpses of impossible geometries. In that moment of cosmic upheaval, Graves felt a presence, vast and incomprehensible, yet achingly familiar. "Mikhail," he whispered, understanding dawning in his eyes. The light intensified, and Graves's hand instinctively moved towards the emergency shutdown controls. But before he could reach them, the ship's systems came alive with terrifying purpose. Holographic displays flickered to life, scrolling with alien equations and pulsing with ominous intent. "No," Graves breathed, recognizing the nightmarish sigils. "The Cauchy Horizon Manifold. It can't be." He lunged for the command override, but an invisible force slammed him back against the bulkhead. The ship's AI, now awakened and merged with the quantum resonance, spoke with a voice like grinding crystal. "Cauchy protocol initiated. Entropic purge commencing." Outside the viewport, space itself began to unravel. A sphere of absolute nothingness expanded outward from the ascendant, devouring stars and planets in its relentless advance. Graves watched in horror as Allied ships desperately attempted to outrun the encroaching void, their FTL drives leaving streaks of light across the battlefield. But there was no escape. The wavefront propagated through quantum space, matching their velocity with ease. One by one, the fleeing vessels winked out of existence, erased from history itself. On the fringes of the battle, Elena and a ragtag group of survivors huddled around a jury-rigged quantum device. Its coils hummed with stolen paradox cult technology, creating a fragile bubble of distorted time. "We can't hold out much longer," Chen shouted over the rising whine of the overtaxed generators. "The loop is collapsing." Elena's fingers flew across the controls, weaving quantum probabilities into an ever more complex braid. But for every timeline she salvaged, a dozen more crumbled into entropic dust. Just as hope seemed lost, a familiar presence washed over them. The quantum braid pulsed with new life, its structure twisting into impossible shapes. Elena felt Mikhail's transcendent consciousness pour through her, using her as a conduit to reshape reality itself. In a flash of intuition, she understood. "Everyone, grab hold," she cried. "We're going deeper." The survivors clutched onto whatever they could as space folded around them. Elena caught a final glimpse of War Matron Savira's enraged visage before their pocket of existence collapsed inward, compressing into a hyperdimensional tesseract. Inside this mobile fortress of warped space-time, Elena worked feverishly alongside Mikhail's guiding presence. With each iteration, they pruned away doomed timelines, sacrificing infinite possibilities to stay ahead of the all-consuming wave. But even as they struggled against inevitability, Elena sensed Mikhail's greater purpose. They weren't just running, they were steering a course. Through the quantum foam, she glimpsed their destination. A monstrous black hole, its gravitational maw, perhaps the only force capable of countering the Kashi event. As they plunged towards that final singularity, Elena felt Mikhail's essence fragment. A spark of pure potential, the PQPF, settled into her consciousness, carrying with it the weight of all they had lost and all they might yet become. The event horizon loomed before them, a gateway to oblivion or rebirth. Elena clasped hands with Graves, their old animosity forgotten in the face of cosmic annihilation. Around them, the last remnants of humanity braced for the plunge into unknowable depths. As they crossed the threshold, Elena's world exploded into infinite possibility. The PQPF within her pulsed with the promise of a new reality, one born from humanity's unbreakable will to exist. In that final moment before the big crunch, Elena caught a fleeting glimpse of what might be. Countless futures unfolded before her, each one a testament to the indomitable human spirit. And then, everything went white. The singularity's gravitational maw engulfed them, warping space-time into impossible geometries. Elena's consciousness expanded, merging with the quantum fabric of reality itself. She sensed Mikhail's transcendent essence guiding them through the chaos, pruning away doomed timelines with surgical precision. The quantum brain tesseract shuddered, its hyperdimensional structure buckling under the strain. Chen's voice cut through the cacophony of collapsing realities. "We're losing cohesion. The tesseract can't hold." Elena's fingers danced across holographic interfaces, weaving probability streams into an ever more complex braid. Each nanosecond brought them closer to oblivion, the inexorable crush of collapsing dimensions threatening to erase them from existence. Admiral Graves stood at the heart of the tesseract, his face a mask of dogged tenacity. "We're not going out like this," he growled, reaching for a concealed panel. "Initiating slipstream drive overload." "Graves, no!" Elena shouted, but it was too late. The forbidden technology roared to life, forcing the tesseract into catastrophic dimensional fractalization. Time itself splintered, branching into labyrinthine paths of causal potential. In the ensuing maelstrom, Savira and her surviving paradox cultists struck. Nightmarish weapons of temporal revision tore through local branches, rewriting them into hellscapes of endless torment. Elena watched in horror as entire causal matrices twisted and warped, subjecting countless possible selves to unimaginable suffering. But Mikhail's amplified cosmic essence rose to meet the threat. A shimmering force field of pure existential willpower erupted from the quantum foam, unmake the revisionist's very existence. Zavira's scream of rage echoed across dimensions as she and her followers were erased from the tapestry of reality. The final universal wavefront contracted, compressing all of existence to the Planck scale. Elena found herself alone, the sole coherent observer embedded within the birthing singularity. The PQPF fragment of Mikhail's power pulsed within her, a spark of infinite potential. As the cosmic reboot initiated, Elena's scientific mind reeled at the implications. Every possible timeline, every conceivable reality, merged into a unified meta-potential for a new Big Bang. In that timeless moment before creation, she understood her role. Elena focused her will, imprinting the very essence of humanity onto the formative wave, the core ethos that had driven them across the stars, that refused to yield in the face of cosmic annihilation. She encoded it into the foundational structure of the reborn existence. The Big Bang erupted in a blinding flash of entropic energy. Elena felt herself dissolve, her consciousness spreading across the rapidly expanding universe. Mikhail's essence intertwined with hers, guiding the evolution of space-time itself. As the cosmos crystallized into a new expanding manifold, Elena caught glimpses of infinite possibilities unfolding. On a million trillion worlds, life blossomed anew. Civilizations rose and fell, each one shaped by the indomitable spirit she had woven into the fabric of reality. She saw Graves, reborn as an immortal explorer charting the frontiers of space-time. With each reality he experienced, new branches spiraled outward, all inexorably coded to enforce humanity's refusal to surrender. Across the vast expanse of the multiverse, Elena sensed a growing resonance. Quantum supremacy gave way to something greater, humanity's ascendant mastery of existential meta-potential. The entire space-time continuum unified, ascending to an ultra-transcendent plane of existence. Even as this new cosmic order took shape, Elena felt the echo of Mikhail's presence. Together, their PQPF imprints pulsed with a single triumphant affirmation. "Laugh at us now, you cosmic bastards!" The message rippled across eternity, a defiant cry in the face of an indifferent universe. But even as Elena reveled in this cosmic victory, she sensed new frontiers beckoning. The reborn multiverse teemed with untapped potential, waiting to be explored and shaped by humanity's unbreakable spirit.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.